Hello everyone and welcome, Dom here, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can make your vocals stand out and always be upfront in the context of a mix using parallel compression and parallel saturation. Vocals might be one of the hardest things to make them sit well in the context of a mix. Many times you have vocals that are not even. Basically what happens is you might have sections of a vocal that are loud and will cut through the mix, and sections of the vocal that are quieter and get lost in the context of a mix because of frequency masking, because of all these things. And the first thing, of course, that we can do to remedy this is to add compression, automation, and all these things. Let me show you an example. I have this vocal here, and let's listen to it in the context of the mix.
Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. When I see your face at night, baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. So when I opened my eyes, baby, I saw that you were there.
So it's a very, very dynamic vocal. As you can see, even from the waveform, we can see this phrase is quiet. There's a loud syllable here. You know, this is kind of okay. This is again very loud, and this is great. Now, our job is to make sure that these vocals will sit well in the context of a mix. And the first thing that most people do is they reach out for a compressor, which is a very valid thing to do. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and add the tube compressor here, and I'm going to start compressing so that we get a little bit of a more even sound, okay? I'm going to compress 2 to 4 dBs.
Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. Baby, when I see your face at night, baby, when you took my hand, I did.
And as you can hear, it already helps a lot, right? So you always need to add a little bit of compression to especially pop vocals, anything that's not classical music or jazz. You know, you might need to add a little bit of compression to make the vocals sit in a very busy arrangement like I have here. But you will see that even though we added compression, it's still not even. It still doesn't cut through in all the sections. Let's have a listen at this section here.
So when I
So these phrases here, for example, are completely lost. In this case, what can we do? If I start compressing 12 dBs, 15 dBs, I'm going to squeeze the life out of these vocals. I'm going to overcompress. And that's a very common mistake that many people do with their vocals. Sometimes it's okay to overcompress, but in this case, we want to retain the natural quality of the vocals. So what is the solution? The solution to this is parallel compression. And let me show you how you can do this in Cubase. So what is parallel compression going to do? We're going to send a copy of this vocal to an effects channel as a send effect. We're going to compress quite a lot, and then we will blend this super compressed vocal with the dry vocal, okay, that we've compressed ever so slightly. What this will do is it will create a nice pillow, a nice level that even though the dry vocals may go below it, the compressed signal is still going to be there to keep the level even. But the sound is not going to be this overcompressed sound, this really bad sound that you can get if you start overcompressing your vocals. So let me show you how you do this. I've actually done this here, but I'm going to create it again so that you can see how it works. First, all you need to do is open your channel settings and go to one of your sends. So you right click and then you say add effects channel to this specific slot. And in this case, I'm using the vintage compressor because it's a very fast, very aggressive compressor, and you can call this parallel compression, okay? So when we add this, the only thing we need to do is send this to our compressor. Now, I've done this already here, so you will see that the difference that I have here is that this, I have it as a pre-fader send, and I'm going to explain why. But before I do this, let me show you what settings I have for my parallel compressor here. So here's my vintage compressor, and I'm going to be compressing quite a lot. I have a super short attack, the shortest that I can get, because I don't want any of these attacks to go through. And I have a very fast release as well. Ratio is 20:1, and the mix is all the way to wet because I'm using this as a send effect, okay? So let's have a listen and let's see how much it compresses here and how it sounds.
Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. Baby, when I see your face at night. Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. So when I open my eyes, baby, I saw that you were there.
And as you can hear, massive difference. Now the vocal sounds way more even. These quiet phrases here that were lost before, now we can hear them clearly, okay? Now I think it's very interesting that you listen how this super compressed vocal sounds like in isolation, and in Cubase, if you want to do this, if you're using the control room, which you should be using the control room, you can just hit listen here and you will be able to hear just the send effect without doing any weird routing, any muting. Let's listen to how it sounds.
Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. Baby, when I see your face at night.
See how compressed this is? This is like 16-17 dBs of compression. It's massively compressed. But see, in these phrases, for example, here.
So when I open my eyes, baby, I saw that you were there.
Or here.
At night.
So it's so compressed that all these quiet phrases come out. But this would be kind of unacceptable to have it as a lead vocal. But in parallel, it's a completely different story. Let me play this again, and I'm going to introduce the parallel compression using my fader here, okay? For my send channel.
Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. Baby, when I see your face at night. Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. So when I open my eyes, baby, I saw that you were there.
So as you can see, the problem is almost already remedied. I'm going to show you another trick that you can do to make things even better. But before this, I want to explain why I have this as a pre-fader and not as a post-fader. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that no matter what kind of level I have here, I'm going to send the exact same level of the vocal to my parallel compressor. Because when I start messing with my dry vocal here, then if I have this like this, check what happens. I'm going to start playing with the fader and check what happens with the compressor.
So when I saw that you were there.
What happens is when I'm lowering the fader for the vocal, then I drive the compressor way less. And that's not what I want. I want to give the parallel compressor a consistent signal. So that's why I'm adding this as a pre-fader sense. See, this is post-fader, this is pre-fader, because I want the level that reaches the compressor to be pre-fader before I start touching the fader, and this shouldn't be taken into account. But when I have it as pre-fader, check what happens when I move the fader of my vocal here.
So when I open my eyes, baby, I saw that you were there.
See, it doesn't care if I'm pulling my fader down or I'm pushing it up, it will still send the compressor, the signal that I set right here, which I always like to set to 0 to keep things neat and tidy. Now, once you've done this, a very cool thing that you can do is you can start automating your parallel channel. So I have my channel here, I have it in my fader here, and I can start automating this depending on how much parallel compression I want to add to my dry vocal. So let me show you. I'm going to activate Write Automation, and I'm going to drive my fader here.
Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. Baby, when I see your face at night. Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. So when I open my eyes, baby, I saw that you were there.
And the beauty when you're automating the parallel compression channel compared to automating the actual vocal channel is that the changes in automation are much smoother. So you don't hear any volume jumps, you don't have to be super precise. It's a much softer kind of automation. It's a much finer kind of automation where when you automate your lead vocal, you get more coarse changes. You have to be very careful with your fader. But when you automate the parallel channel, then you get a much forgiving automation for your vocals. So as you can see, what I was doing here, I was taking these quiet phrases and I was raising my fader ever so slightly so that I can get a little bit more of this compressed signal into my vocal so you can enhance this parallel compression technique. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do and I'm going to show you is add some parallel saturation. This I'm adding to the parallel compressor channel. Why? Because I want to add some more harmonics to this compressed signal. And for this, I'm using the tube. So I'm going to show you how this sounds with the tube as well.
Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. Baby, when I see your face at night.
And because the tube adds saturation, this means a little bit more compression as well. So the vocal comes up front. And you can use the tube, you can use the distortion plugin, you can use Destroyer for this, depending on what kind of flavor you want. And it sounds really nice. And especially for pop vocals, this technique will help the vocals cut through a very busy mix.
Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. So when I opened my eyes, baby, I saw that you were there. So when I opened my eyes, baby, I saw that you were there.
And as you can see, we can get a really nice present vocal sound without adding too many plugins and too much processing on our vocals. The vocal sounds like it has its place in the mix now. And now I'm going to show you the last trick that I think will give you the finishing touch for your vocal, and that's something super simple. Just take your vocal, take your parallel compression channel, and then send these to a group channel. Okay, I'm going to add a group channel, and then I'm going to call this All Vox. So now I have both of them going into a bus. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm going to add the compressor plugin that we have in Cubase, just to add a tiny bit of extra compression so that we can get a final polished sound. I'm not going to compress too much now, just a couple of dBs.
Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. Baby, when I see your face at night. Baby, when you took my hand, I didn't understand. So when I opened my eyes, baby, I saw that you were there.
So as you can hear, all the phrases are audible now. We can hear what the lyrics are saying, and bear in mind, we haven't added any extra processing. I haven't added any drastic EQ, any sweetening, any dynamic EQ, all these things that can contribute to a great vocal sound. This is just by using parallel compression, and parallel saturation. So this, in my opinion, is one of the most important techniques when you're mixing vocals, and I hope that now you know exactly how to do it with the included tools in Cubase. So I hope you have loads of fun mixing your vocals, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.